All right, good evening. Welcome to the first of the season's Motzei Shabbos Malav Malka Daf Yomi extended editions. Tonight's Motzei Shabbos Daf is sponsored by Rabbi Aaron and Evelyn Kislasi in honor of Rabbi Loiterman's birthday. Thank you very much. We're celebrating my 40th birthday, which happened many years ago. And in honor of their grandson Yehuda, Yoshua's bar mitzvah, Mazel Tov, is beautiful. He did a wonderful, amazing job. And it's very good over there. Daf Yomi for the entire week is sponsored by Shmuley and Miriam Fuchs. Li Nishmas, Miriam's father, Chanoch ben Yaakov HaKohen, Zichron L'Bracha, whose yahrzeit is on the 7th of Kislev, and also Shmuley should have a refuah shlema. His back is out, right? Oh, no. Yes, right. His back is out, and we hope that he feels better and can be up and around in Yirtzeh Hashem very soon. That's a free one. We don't throw that one in. Extra. And thank you very much for the fine wines that being offered for the event. L'chaim Baruch Atah Adonai Pri Agafen. That's very yummy. Very good. Sorry for those at home. You can open up your own bottle of wine, order a pizza. You can press pause for a moment until it comes, and then enjoy. Okay.
This is Spanish wine.
We had very good.
Yeah.
Now, we had discussed the chatas ha'of, the bird offering for, that was a korban chatas, and we said that it's going to be done on the southwest corner, right? You can do it anywhere, right? It's just that the blood application is going to be done on the southwest corner, and we said it doesn't have a lot of blood. You don't want to waste it, so getting your korban done on the southwest corner is a good idea. We also said that on the upside, right, on the korban olas ha'of is done, the chatas ha'of. There are three things that we said in the Mishnah that are done underneath the red line on the southwest corner. The chatas ha'of, the bird offering, the hagashos, the mincha, which touches they bring the utensil, they touch that against the corner of the mizbeach, and the leftover blood. We already have been talking a lot about pouring that into the base of the mizbeach in that corner. And also, they point out that when there's an extra large quantity of ola offerings, then the korban ola could also be done on that part. We will discuss the ola sa'of in a Mishnah in a little bit and see where that was done. Anybody who goes up the mizbeach, we said, turns right, goes around the mizbeach, traffic control, right? We're going to always go this way, except we had certain avodos, right, where we're going to go direct, right? So there are certain, the ola, somebody who goes up for three different things, which the Nisoch Hayayin, which was we're pouring the wine up there, Nisoch Hamayim, pouring the water up there, and the Olas Ha'of, the burning of the Olas Ha'of. So those things we're going to go directly up to the south. We're going to go directly up, come here, and then turn around and go back down. We will see why. Says the Gemara Minani Mili. What is the source for this rule that the Chatas Ha'of is done on the southwest corner specifically? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yeshua says, Amar Kro, the Pasuk says, Lo yasim aleha shemen, velo yitin aleha levona. This is talking about the korban ola v'yored. Korban ola v'yored, if in certain averos, so we're going to bring this korban that depends on how much money you have. You can bring an animal, you can bring birds, you can even bring a korban mincha, right, which is going to be made of flour. So you're not supposed to put on it any frankincense or any oil, ki chatosi, because of korban chatos. So we're not gonna fancy it up at all. So chatos kriya mincha kriya chatos. This pasuk tells us that a chatos is called a mincha, and a mincha is called a chatos, right? That you can have a mincha which is a chatos which is a mincha. And so what is the comparison between a chatos and a mincha? Ma chatos tu'unat safon. Just like a korban chatos has to be done in the north, as we said, by a regular chatos behema has to be done in the north. Af mincha tu'unat safon. Also, the korban mincha has to be done in the north. And ma mincha bekeren ma'aravis dromis, just like a korban mincha has to be done in the southwest corner. Af chatos bekeren ma'aravis dromis. So too, the bird chatos is going to also have to be done in the southwest corner. Now, problematic is the fact that we just said that this chatas mincha chatas has to be done in the north side, because we had an earlier Mishnah that said that you could do the kmitza for a korban mincha anywhere in the Azara. So this contradicts that. How is it supposed to be done in the north? It should be done anywhere in the Azara. So there are Mefarshim and Rishon to try to figure out exactly what this is talking about. Either it's specifically for this, the mincha, the korban mincha v'chatos, has to be done in the north, but all the other korban minchas don't have to be done in the north. It's possible that that's what it's talking about. Or that while the kmitza doesn't have to be done in the north, the putting it into the utensil has to be done in the north, which would be interesting as well. So that means that you could do the kmitza anywhere in the Azar, but then you got to go around, find the north in order to put it into the utensil. So this Mishnah puts a little bit of a confusion into this. I'm going to post on the WhatsApp chat a great video that I found, which is about 38 minutes, and it goes through every korban in 3D. And shows you exactly where it was brought and how it was done, which now that we've gone through all their korbanos, it's going to be very meaningful, right? Yeah. I would say if I watched this before having learned all the Gemara, it would probably be very complicated and difficult to understand. But now it's like, oh yeah, I remember we learned that. Now I remember we learned that. Is very good. Now, to be fair to the video, as I watched most of the video, sometimes it just offers one of the opinions. For example, when it talks about Malika, we learned there were two different. Did we learn it yet? Two different ways to hold the bird, right? There was one on the back of the hand, one on the front of the hand. I get confused whether maybe I'll learn, maybe that'll be tomorrow's daf. Whether you hold it on the back, hold it on the back of the hand until we catch up. I'm going to be confused. The back, which way you hold it, we're only going to show one opinion, but that's okay. It generally helps. The pinching of the back of the neck, yeah, that's correct. Okay, so now.
So what about the sprinkling of the blood? Anywhere or?
So the sprinkling of the blood is going to be on the southwest corner. That's where we're going to do it, on the southwest corner. Now, if we're the source for the chatos having the sprinkling of the blood being done on the southwest corner is from the korban mincha, where's the source for the korban mincha needing to be on the southwest corner? What's that source? Ditanya, we learned in a brisa. Lifnei Hashem, you have to do this before Hashem. Right, this is by about the hagisha, which is the touching of the utensil of the korban mincha to the corner of the mizbeach. It has to be done before Hashem. Yochel b'ma'arov. I might think before Hashem is on the west side of the mizbeach. Right, here's our west side of the mizbeach. That's opposite the Beis Hamikdash. Right, so I should touch it to the west side. Tamid lomar, but then the pasuk says el pnei hamizbeach, on the face of the mizbeach. Which side is the face? The south side. Right. Where the ramp is. We said that was the face, right? So now it's supposed to be touched on the south side. I got one pasuk telling me to do it on the west side, one pasuk telling me on the south side. If it tells me that it's supposed to be on the face of the mizbeach, yochel b'darim, I might think it's on the south. But then the pasuk says lifnei Hashem to tell me it's got to be on the west. Haketzad. So what am I supposed to do? So magisha bekeren ma'aravis dromis, right? What I got to do is I got to bring it to the southwest corner. Keneged chuda shel keren, on the corner itself, right opposite below, where it's because we're going to do it below, right? The chatos, the korban mincha is going to be done down here. It's going to be below this corner of the mizbeach. Vidayo, and that's good. That's all I got to do. Now, Rabbi Elazar says, Yochel yagishena lema'arava shel keren or lidroma shel keren. Maybe I got the corner. I should put it on the south side or the west side of that corner. Samart says kol makom shatamotzi. You can't have that explanation because kol makom shatamotzi shnei mikros. If you have two psukim, echad mekayim atzmo umekayim chavero. One, if I read that pasuk by itself, I can say, well, I can accomplish that pasuk, but it's in conflict with another pasuk. The echad, but if I start with the other pasuk, so then mekayim atzmo umevato. Sorry, the other way around. If I can look at one pasuk, I can accomplish that pasuk. Plus, it doesn't have to conflict with the other pasuk. Or I could read them as it could have be'echad mekayim atzmo umevato chavero. I could read it the other way, and I could accomplish one pasuk, but that would contradict the other pasuk. Then I'm going to pick the explanation that I can follow both, right? Why would I pick? I've got two choices on how to explain the psukim. Why would I pick the explanation that conflicts with one of the psukim? Pick the explanation that allows me to do both psukim. So, Keshe'ata Omer El Pnei Hashem B'Ma'arav. So when it says the face of Hashem, so that's on the west side. Heichan Kayamta El Pnei HaMizbeach. So how would I then fulfill the pasuk that says on the face of the Mizbeach? El Pnei Hashem means the west side. That's not on the south side. I can't do that. Ukishata Omer El Pnei HaMizbeach B'Dorom. If I'm going to take the south side, Pnei HaMizbeach, and go the south side, Kayamta L'Pnei Hashem. So then Kayamta L'Pnei Hashem. I've done before I was able to fulfill Kiyam to Lifnei Hashem. I've been able to do it before Hashem as well. So Bedarim on the south side. So Bedarim Heichan Kayamta. So how did I read that? 1 second. El Pnei B'Marav. So Heichan. Let me see how I didn't put the commas in the right place there. He says, If you're going to el pnei mizbeach, I use el pnei mizbeach. Sorry, kishat tomer el pnei mizbeach. When it says pnei mizbeach is bedarom, so then kiyam to lifnei Hashem. I could do the south side and still be in front of Hashem. I can't do the lifnei Hashem, be on the west side and still fulfill the south side, but I can be on the south side and still fulfill the lifnei Hashem parts. So heichon kiyamta. How would you be able to do that? Makes no sense. If I'm on isn't that exclusive? I mean, the whole way we were reading this is south and west are exclusive. How am I doing both? So Ravashi is kasavar haitan. This Tana holds kule mizbeach betzafon kai. The whole mizbeach is in the north side, right? And if we remember when we were discussing this, so let's just go with our standard drawing of the Beis Hamikdash here. Okay, and once I draw my mark down the middle, right? If the whole mizbeach is over here on the north side, then this south side is in front of the mizbeach because this whole section here is opposite the opening of the Beis Hamikdash. So the south side is also lifnei Hashem. So therefore, that corner fulfills lifnei Hashem as well. So therefore, if I go to the south and the west, I'm both fulfilling the pnei of the panim of the mizbeach and the south of the mizbeach. Okay, so therefore that's how you read that. And that's why we decide that the place to touch the Korban Mincha is the southwest side. And then we're going to learn from the Korban Mincha over to the Olas, to the Chatos Oaf, to tell me also that's where I'm going to do the bird offering of a Chatos is also going to be on the southwest side. Okay, good. That's our sources. Next it says, Kol Makom Haisa Kshera. The Chatos Oaf could be done any place, right? We said it doesn't have to have the Malika done in that location. It's not like we had learned by Kodshe Kodshim that you had to do Shechita in the north side. This is really could be done anywhere. It's just practically better to do it there. So, Maika Amar, what is the Mishnah saying here, right? If it can be done anywhere, then why are you saying the southwest side? So, Ravashi is Hachi Kamar. This is what he means to say. Bekol Makom Haisek Shera Limlika. So you could do Malika anywhere in the Azara. There's no pasuk in the Torah that tells me where Malika has to be. That's just the place where you have to sprinkle the blood, as we just learned. And so if that's the place where you sprinkle the blood, it makes most sense. Do the Malika right where you're going to sprinkle the blood. Tanina Lahadu Tana Rabbanan. We learn in a Mishnah that which we just explained. We learned in a brisa that which we just learned in a brisa. Sorry, we learned in Mishnah that which we learned in a brisa. Malaka says like this: Malaka bechol makom b'mizbeach. You could do the malika of the chatas, the bird offering, anywhere on the mizbeach, lamala, lamata, on any corner you want. That's kshera. If you do it anywhere, that's fine. He's a dama bechol makom kshera. Also, right? If you sprinkle the blood of the chatas anywhere, it's also kosher. We had discussed whether you could have a korban when we had these korbanos. If you sprinkle the blood in the wrong place, the korban is nevertheless not invalidated by that. However, he's a velo mitzah, kshera also, if you do the sprinkling, but you don't do the mitzah. Remember that we had discussed that there's two steps to the malika by a korban chatos. By malika you're gonna poke it in the back, and then you're gonna sprinkle some of the blood, and then you squeeze some more of the blood onto the corner of the mizbeach. So you have to do the hazah and the mitzah. But the mitzah, we said, was not ma'akiv, was not critical, right? If you do the hazah, the sacrifice is fine. If you never do the mitzah, then it's okay, it's still kosher. Ubevad she'itein michut hasikr lamata midam hanefesh. The only thing is, the thing that's critical is the sprinkling of the blood below the red line. That's critical. You've got to get some blood from this korban, otherwise you haven't done hazah. Hazah is ma'akiv. That's critical to the whole thing. So all of those other rules, ideal. You're supposed to do them, right? They may actually prevent the... so, my ka'amar, what is this brisa coming to tell me, right? They contradict each other, right? First you said you could do it anywhere. Then you say that it has to be the bottom half of the mizbeach. So which is it? Hachi kamar, this is what it means. Malaka b'chol makom b'mizbeach kshera, right? If you do the malika anywhere on the mizbeach, that's kosher. Mitzah dama b'chol makom mizbeach kshera. If you do the mitzah, also any place on the mizbeach, also kosher. On to samach dalad and aleph. Sheim hiza v'lo mitzah kshera. Because why? Because you don't even need mitzah, right? If you do hazah, you don't do mitzah. That's the squeezing. Then you can. That also is an acceptable korban. When some parts of the korban are mitzvos to do, some are critical to do. However, you have to do the hazah, as we explained, has to be done below the red line on the southwest corner. That's critical. That you can't mess around with. All the other things are not critical to the korban. You could do them in any location. Okay.
It seems like the chatas for the behema, there's so much more things that are ma'akev, whereas for the oaf, there's not much that is ma'akev, right? But it's still kodesh kodashim.
Yes, it seems like bird offerings are simpler.
Yeah.
I would tend to agree because there's no catching blood. But the malika,
you can't leave any blood left over neither in the other one.
Right, because you have to pour it onto the base. There's nothing here to pour it on the base, correct? And there's no. It does seem like a simpler process. Also, even cutting it up and burning fats and all that, none of that exists either. Birds definitely seem simpler.
But you can't choose to bring the bird unless you can't afford the.
That's only for a korban olav yored, right? You can't bring a regular. If I do an avera b'shogeg, I can't bring a bird instead, right? There are certain times you bring a bird korban chatos. A woman who gives birth brings a bird korban chatos. She brings an ola and a chatos, right? She brings those korbanos, right? A ola v'yored, so usually somebody swears falsely as an example, right? So then you bring korban ola v'yored under those circumstances. You won't bring a korban ola v'yored if you do an avera that you're supposed to get kares for and you do a b'shogeg. That you still have to bring your goat, right? You have to bring your, what do you call, she-goats, right? That's the greatest goat of all time. I don't know if that works.
Recently, I remember hearing someone saying that when it comes to the korbanos of the birds, the gender
doesn't matter. Also true.
Yeah.
That's also true. Gender of the birds don't matter. Boy birds, girl birds, also doesn't matter. That's also a good point, right?
How do you determine whether you can afford it or not? Who determines it?
That's a great question. Probably your accountant.
IRS.
The IRS or the CRA, depending on country. It's a great question.
I can say I can't afford it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know whether it's, I guess, in the honor system or something, right? I don't know. It's a good question. Like, what is the definition of affording? I don't know. Maybe we'll get to the korban olav yored and we'll see with some greater. I do not remember. And yeah. Okay. Good question. Shlosha devarim. We said there are three things that. Right, you're supposed to do them above the red line, and here they are. Right, so the first one is, or there are three things that are done on the southwest side. That's what we said. Sorry, the three things that are done on the southwest side. First one is chatas ha'of was the bird offering. So hada amran, right? We already learned that one. We already learned that comes from the korban mincha. And hagashos, we also learned the bringing of the korban mincha to the southwest corner also. Dichsiv, the pasuk says, v'yigisha el pnei mizbeach, right? It says to the pnei mizbeach, which we also said was lifnei Hashem and pnei mizbeach there for the southwest corner. Shiyore hadam, and we already know that the blood is poured into the corner of the yesod. We've learned that before. Vas kol dam hapar yishpoch el yesod hamizbeach. You pour it to the base of the mizbeach, and we learned that was lifnei Hashem, the place that was closest, and so therefore that makes good sense. Okay, good. Milmala, what things are done above the red line? Nisuch hamayim, on Sukkos, they would draw water, and they would pour water onto the mizbeach. Vehayayin, many offerings had wine. It's good for korbanos. It's good for Daf Yomi. Wine was brought on the top of the mizbeach. Ve'olas ha'of, and the bird offering. Right? Keshehi rabba b'mizrach, when there are too many, it was supposed to be done on the east side, on the best place for the korban. The bird ola offering is supposed to be done up here. That's what this coin up here is doing. He's doing his korban ola ha'of. But let's say it's crowded, then you could go down here. Okay, so now, what's going on here? My taima, what is the reason? My tema for what? What is the reason why the Olas HaOf is done in the southeast corner? Let's start with that, right? Where is it supposed to be done? It's supposed to be done in the southeast. Why? So Rabbi Yochanan says, Mipnei shekrova mi beis ha-deshen, because that is the corner that is closest to the beis ha-deshen. And if you will recall, looking at our overhead view for a moment, there was a this part right here, it's actually put on the diagram right there by the Beis Hadeshen. This is a spot where every morning the Kohen would climb up go up the Mizbeach, scoop up some of the coals. He would come down here and he would put them on the side of the Mizbeach. That was the Trumas Hadeshen. It was done on on every morning basis. The Olas Ha'of has part of the service, which we'll learn about, where you remove the guts of the bird and you throw them onto this pile. The corner that's closest to this pile is here on the southeast side. So therefore, that's the place to be able to put. That's the best place to be able to do your olas ha'of.
Does that go around or just?
He's going to throw it.
Yeah, but
which is quite a distance. It's 20. We said was 20. We said. Well, we didn't say yet. I always remember which things we said we didn't say. I'm not going to say anything yet. Okay. So that's where the Trumas Hadeshen is going to be.
He has to throw it, huh?
Yes.
And it's as far. It's like.
We're going to see this. Yeah.
It should be good.
For quarterbacks in history.
Right.
I was actually thinking that the Mizbeach inspired baseball. You know, you have the mound.
Oh, there you go. 4 corners. There's a punch. That's right. So that's what the Gemara says. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Borei kama godol kochan shekohanim." You got to see how strong the kohanim were, right? Think about what it was, the athletic feat that this was. Shein lecha kal ba'ofos yoser mimura v'notza. The bird has what's called a crop, which is in the neck of the bird. And I'm going to bring this. I actually printed it out. I'll bring it. If you can imagine, this is our bird, right? And he looks like this. Over here, he's got a crop. And I'm not quite sure exactly how the digestive system of the bird works, but if I recall in Chulin or whatever, this is where the beginning of the digestion. They don't have teeth that they grind things up, but they would swallow stones into their crop, and then that would also grind the food that goes into here. And then it goes down into the kurkavan, which is the gizzard, which these parts, they don't have those, the animals don't have the gizzard or whatever, further digests. Okay, so that's where the food would go, to the crop and the gizzard. So you're supposed to take these parts of the olas ha'of, you take them out of the bird, and they're very light. As you can imagine, birds are light, so all of their internal organs are also likewise very light. So this is very light. You can't, if you've ever tried to throw something light, it is very difficult, right? Try to take, crumple up a piece of paper into a ball and throw it 30 feet. Right? Very difficult, right? So if you've got something very light and you have to throw it that distance. So pamim, sometimes sometimes a kohen might have to throw it more than 30 amos away. 30 amos is somewhere between 45 and 60 feet, right? So that's pretty athletic. That's what's the distance between pitcher's mound and pitcher? 66 feet. So there's more baseball inspiration.
A lot depends on the shape of, a marble, a tiny marble.
Yeah.
You could throw very far, even though it's very light, right? But if you have a ball of feathers and you throw it, it's not going to go very far.
Correct. I would imagine these are small, right?
Streamline.
The density seems to make a difference.
Science.
Yeah, streamline.
That's right. Science.
Yeah.
The coefficient of drag.
Also.
The
Okay.
difference is that the coin is in shape
Yes.
as opposed to the baseball players. Like heavy and I don't even know how they run anyway.
That's true. But they know how to throw a ball.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. This is our Mizbeach. Okay. And the overhead shot, right? We're putting the Trumas Hadeshen right over here. Okay. This distance we said from here to here, how far, what was the width of the ramp? 16, right? The width of the entire top of the Mizbeach wasn't 32, from the bottom, right, from the base. We're going to count, right? From the bottom, right? So it should be 28 across here, right? And from the bottom, right, it's 32 across all the way from the bottom, right, including the base, right? So that's going to be, this is where this is going to go around. There's no base on this side, right? But the base goes around here and comes all the way around this side and around this side, and that's the end of our base, right? So that's our base. From here to here, we've got 32. So that means on either side, if we're going to cut this in half, right? So that means from on this side, we've got 8. So from 8 to the end here, 16. So there's 8 over on this side and 8 over on this side, right? So it's 8, 16, and 8. That's going to be our division up to 32. So here's how we're going to do our math. Okay? Ditznan, we don't know Mishnah. Noto machto shel kesef. So what happens is that the Trumas Hadeshin, here's how the Trumas Hadeshin was done. They would take a shovel, a silver shovel, the Ola Rosh Mizbeach, and the Kohen would go up every morning, and he would go up to the top of the Mizbeach. Upinas hagecholim eloch ve'eloch. He would separate the coals side to side, because the ones on the top are burnt out, right? You want to get to the heart of the internal ones, so he'd push them to the sides. Vechata minha meuchalos. And he would dig up some of the ones that are really burnt up well, right? Ones that are on the inside. Hapnimios, the ones are all the way on the inside. V'yored, he would take a shovel full and he would go down the mizbeach. Higia l'ritzpa, he'd get to the floor, right? And then machzir panav klape tzafon, he would turn around back towards the north. And then the holech lemizracho shel keves, then he would go on the east side. He would walk along the east side of the mizbeach ke'eser amos. He would go 10 amos. So the distance from here to here is 10 amos, right? We'll do our algebra. So what's the distance between the Trumas Hadeshin and the Mizbeach? We remember that our ramp was a total of 32 amos, right? So this is a distance of 22, right? So the Trumas Hadeshin is 22 amos away from the side of the Mizbeach, okay? And Savar es hagecholim, he would then arrange the coals, al gabe haritzpa, on the floor. Rachok min hakeves shloshet tfachim. It was 3 tfachim to the side of the ramp. So very close to the side of the ramp. We'll just call that a negligible but small amount, right? Not completely irrelevant, but small amount. Malkum shenosin mura'ah v'notza, that the Mishnah in Meseches Tamid notes, is the place that they would burn the olas, the internal organs, the crop and the gizzard from the crop and the feathers, we're going to say is the crop and the feathers that were on it. So you'll see that's going to be later on, argument about what the note say is. The crop and the feathers, they would burn that on that pile of coals. Dishun, Mizbeach HaPnimi v'HaMenorah, they would also put the remnants of the inner altar, the Ketores that was burned yesterday, wipe all those ashes off. And also, when they would clean out the menorah, they would bring the remnants of that and put that onto that little space as well. So that's what that was for. So now, if we do the math, right? Let's draw our square. We've got 22 amos this direction. From the side of the ramp to here is going to be 16 plus 8, which is 24. So if I draw my measurements, I've got 24 by 22, and I wanted to make my hypotenuse of my right triangle. So then, what's 24 squared plus 22 squared? Somebody's got their calculator? 24 squared plus 22 squared equals a lot of things, and divided by, it's going to come out to approximately, I hope, about 30 amos or so, right? More than 30 amos is what they said. Okay? Somebody's doing their math. Good.
This is not a scientific calculator. No exponents.
What's the length of the hypotenuse if the two sides are 22 feet and 24
that's
feet
right.
respectively?
There we go. Do it right.
AI.
And we'll have a sip of wine while we're waiting for AI to do its job.
32.
That's probably rounded.
It says 32.6.
Okay, there you go.
What did you get?
So it says, the Gemara says more than 30. However, the Gemara says,
Anyway, there's a lot of
is always a little bit, I could be off with math, but the reason why the Gemara is actually a little off is because the Gemara does not use decimals, right?
Yeah.
Remember, the Gemara has a rule, and the Gemara's rule is that whenever you have, that the rule is that the Gemara uses is that whenever you have a right triangle, and this is 1 and this is 1, this is going to be 1 2/5. Which is not bad, because that's the square root of 2, right? Essentially, 1 2/5, the square root of 2. It's not quite, because it's 1.41 something, right? But this is going to be 1.4. So they're using a number which is slightly lower as the calculation. So therefore, the Mishnah is going to be a little bit less. Nevertheless, if you use the Mishnah's calculation, you still wind up a little bit less than 32, but you wind up with more than 31. The Mishnah said more than 30. So the Gemara asks, Hatfemi plusin v'chad havyon. It's more than 31, not more than 30. So the answer is, Mokum Gavri Lo Chashiv. You know what is not included? Is that if the Kohen is standing on this corner and he's throwing it from there to there, you're right, it's 31, but the Kohen takes up some space too. We're measuring from the release point, right? And your release point is going to be like an amma closer. So therefore, since it's an amma closer, we are going to say it's less than 31. Somewhere between 30 and 31 is our approximation. Nevertheless, we get the point. The Kohen had to be fairly athletic and able to make that throw if he is doing a korban olas haof, right? So we're going to say that if you're going to be the Kohen who volunteers to do somebody's korban olas haof, you'd better be practicing, right?
You would think that it would be disrespectful to throw the korban chatas 30 feet,
Yeah.
right?
We're throwing guts. And you imagine, I'm just like, this is as my son said, you know what? You start thinking about what was going on in the Beis HaMikdash. You've got people walking up and down this ramp with severed limbs of animals, body parts, internal organs flying around. There's animals walking through. Everybody has this picture of this serene, quiet. It's like animals are everywhere. There's a stockyard that's like blood. It was a happening, active place, right? Have to train your mind to be able to think of what the Beis HaMikdash, what the active Beis HaMikdash was like. Hundreds of korbanos a day. It was like pretty amazing, right?
I don't think on the sukkah posters I've seen
Correct.
blood all over the place.
It's highly sanitized.
That's I would imagine there's a lot of blood someplace.
There was a maintenance contract.
That's correct. Okay. Kol ha'olim lemizbeach. Anybody who goes up the mizbeach makes a right, and that is except for three different situations where you're going to make a left. So my time. Let's talk about these three situations where you're making a left. What is the reason why they made a left? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says nisachim. The reason why they went up and made a left is by the wine is because Shema Yisashnu, because it's smoky up there. There's a lot of fires going on. You carry wine up around near a fire, and it's going to smoke the wine and ruin the wine. So therefore, in order to avoid that, they didn't make the Kohen walk all around the Mizbeach in the smoky area. They went right directly to the corner where they were going to pour it. Olas ha'of, also the bird offering, was also brought direct. Why? Shema tamus be'oshon, because it could die from smoke inhalation. Right? You're bringing this bird around the Mizbeach, and it was very smoky. And so therefore, the bird could suffocate.
I thought it's already dead.
Well, so you're, he has not done Malika yet, right? Because you're going up, and you're going to wind up in the southwest corner, right? According to this version, right? You're going to get to the southwest corner, and he's going to do Malika up here, because there's too much going on over here. Mm-hmm. So he's going to go up. Somebody's already there. So he's going to go all the way around to here. We're not going to make him go all the way around, right? Because we don't want it to be too smoky. So you're just going to go up and go right to the corner over there.
It's actually fascinating to me that the wine that it gets poured, it doesn't get drunk by a person.
Correct.
It's poured.
And you still want it.
So we're not sure that Hashem doesn't want smoky wine.
Right? I wouldn't.
I think smoky wine is
Smoky Scotch, I don't know.
What I mean is, the smoke from the mizbeach and all of the limbs and all that's pleasing to Hashem.
Correct.
And
don't mix.
And the wine is not.
Yeah, don't mix. Yes, correct. Yeah. That he says, Yayin me'ushan is pasul v'nisuch. Right, Meseches Menachos, we will learn that you can't get smoked wine. Smoky wine is not going to be acceptable. Okay? Okay, so now, the Gemara says, we have a contradiction to this. Because it says that, let's say the Kohen Gadol, he wants to, in the Mishnah in Tamid, Kohen Gadol is allowed at any point to say, I want to do that. And he can take any korban that he wants. He has rights. So he says, he wants to do the Niso Chayayin, he wants to pour the wine. So he gets up on the Mizbeach, and the Mishnah says, Bolo lahakif es ha-Mizbeach, me'ayin hu maskil. He's going to get up, he's going to walk around the Mizbeach. Where does he start from? Mikern Dromis Mizrachis. He goes to the southeast corner. Then he goes Mizrachis Tzfonis. He goes to the northeast corner. Tzfonis Ma'aravis. Then he goes to the northwest corner. Ma'aravis Dromis goes to the southwest corner. We just described the walk of the Kohen all around the Mizbeach to get to the corner over here. You just told me that he's supposed to go up the ramp and go right to the corner. So which is it? So then it says, no, and nostin lo yain lenasech. Then we give him the wine in order to pour it out. So Rabbi Yochanan says, I'll tell you why. Hakafa beregel. The answer is because he was walking around he was just doing the walk. He wasn't holding the wine at that point. The Kohen Gadol, when the Kohen Gadol does it, he walks around, gets to the corner, and then somebody hands him the wine. The regular Kohen, when he's doing it as part of the service, he carries the wine. So if he's carrying the wine, you don't want him walking around the Mizbeach carrying the wine. But if the Kohen Gadol is going to do it, he walks all the way around, gets to the corner, and then somebody hands it to him. So therefore, you don't have to worry about the wine being smoky. So therefore, that's why. Amar Rava says, Daikanami, you can even, if you read the Mishnah carefully, you can see that there, Dikatani, it says, Nosin lo yayin lanasech. It says, we give him the wine to pour it, v'lo katani omrim lo nasech. We don't say to him, okay, go ahead and pour, right? He doesn't have the wine yet. We have to give it to him. Shmami no. So you see clearly that is in fact accurate. The Kohen Gadol doesn't have the wine in his hand. That's why. Tana Rabban, we learn in a brisa. Koha olin lemizbeach. Anybody who goes up on the mizbeach, olin derech yamin. He goes to the right side. V'yordin derech smol and comes down the left side. Olin derech mizrach, which means he's going to go up the east side, right? Glancing, that makes sense, right? V'yordin derech marav, and he's coming down the west side, right? Go up this side, and traffic goes that way. Chutz mina ola lishlosha dvarim halalu, except for somebody who goes up for these three things, the nisach hayayin, nisach hamayim, and olas ha'of, right, which we said. Sha'olim derech marav, on that circumstance, you're going to go up the downside, on the west side. V'yordin derech marav, and you're going to come back down the west side. Olin derech yamin, we're going to go up the right side and come down the right side. Now, derech yamin, so it says, the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Come up the right side. It's derech small, that's the left side. We should be coming up the left side and coming down the left side, not coming up the right side and coming down the right side. Amar Ravina says, tni small, you're right, you got to change the text. Text is a mistake. It means that you're supposed to go up the left side and down the left side. That's easy enough. Amar Rava says, ma yamin, what does it mean, the right side? Yamin to mizbeach. We're talking about the right side if you're on the mizbeach. This is the right side if you're on the mizbeach, not the left side. Okay, well, umay smol, and then when it says when you go up and down the left side, you go up the right side, come down the left side. Earlier in the Mishnah, that's smol de gavra. That's the person who's standing here, right? The person who's walking up. This is his left, and that's his right. So the problem with that is why are you switching in the middle of the Mishnah? Either be consistent. Either this is always the right side and this is the left side. Why are you switching and saying that all of a sudden this becomes the right side? We switch to the perspective of the Mizbeach. Why? Gosh, that's a good question. Okay, but at least that way we didn't have to change the text of the Mishnah that way. Okay, now let's discuss the details of how to actually do the malika, the korbanos of the bird. Okay, so chatas of kesa anasis. How do you do a chatas of? So what you're supposed to do, haya molek es rosha mimul arpa. So the Kohen is holding the bird, and he punctures it from the back of the neck. Right? He's going to see if my bird is still here. No, erase my bird. Right? I will bring my bird tomorrow, but for now, this is my bird.
Bring a real bird?
No, I've got a guy's drawing of a bird. I will not subject any bird to. No birds are harmed in the making of this video, right? I'm going to do the back, or the oref, the orpa is the back of the neck. So that's where you're puncturing from. Molek es rosha mimul orpa. Ve'eno mavdil. And you are not supposed to separate the head of the bird from the bird when you do it. Yes.
This method of killing the bird, is it very unique to
Korbanos.
Yeah, because for shechita, isn't it?
We're going to be discussing all about what winds up happening. Let's say you do malika, and you're not in the Beis Hamikdash. Is the bird
not kosher?
It's not right, not kosher at all. What happens to it in those circumstances? And we will be discussing all of that in great detail over the next 4 or 5 pages, to everyone's great delight. I'm learning all about this, right? So, but the answer is no. You cannot. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try this at home. If you do this, you will not have a kosher bird. So
the
don't.
Barbecue will be after.
Correct. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay. So you're doing now. Rashi points out when we say that you're not supposed to sever, it also means there are two. I I guess, tubes, pipes. What's the right medical term for them? The trachea and vessels, the trachea and the esophagus, right? Otherwise known in the vernacular as the food pipe and the windpipe, right? And in order, when you're doing shechita on an animal, you have to sever both of them, right? Or rove most of both of them. When you do shechita on a bird, you only sever one. You only need to sever one of them. The bird is considered halakhically deceased once one of them is severed. You do not need to sever both. When it comes to the chatos, and you're doing this chatos, you're not supposed to sever the head. Rashi makes it clear what that means is not just that you shouldn't physically decapitate the bird. You're not supposed to sever both. You're supposed to just siman echad, one of the two. We call them the simanim in Hebrew. You're only supposed to sever one of those vessels, the trachea or the esophagus, not both. Okay, so that's just it. Umazemi dama al kir hamizbeach. Then we're going to sprinkle from the blood of this animal on the corner of the mizbeach. We said the southwest corner. Sheyore hadam, the leftover blood that's in the bird, haya mismatze al yesod. We'd squeeze the bird to get more blood out, and we would pour that onto the corner, the base of the mizbeach. Okay, and it would go down. They would put it on the wall of the mizbeach, and it would run down the side of the mizbeach till it got to the base of the mizbeach. Ve'ein lemizbeach ela dama, ve'kula lakohanim. The mizbeach doesn't get to consume any of the rest of the bird. Right? Normally, we had by animals, there were fats that were supposed to be burned on the mizbeach. There's nothing that's burned from the bird on the mizbeach. As we said, it's much simpler. The kohen gets to consume the entire bird. Right? He gets to eat that bird for dinner. Kohen gets to eat it. Okay, says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan and Rabbi Zern. V'hiza midam hachatos, right? Pasuk says you're supposed to sprinkle from the blood of the chatos, miguf hachatos. That means that you sprinkle directly from the body of the bird itself. There's no service utensil that you catch the blood in. There's no, like we had by Kabbalah, by animals, there's no such thing as that. We just take the bird and we sprinkle it. Ha ketzad, how do you do it? Oches berosh baguf umazi. You take the head and the bird's body and you go flip, and that's how you do it. Al kir mizbeach, you do it on the wall of the mizbeach. Velo al kir hakevesh. You don't do it on the ramp. It's got to be on the mizbeach. Velo al kir heichal. You can't do it on the side of the Beis HaMikdash. Velo al kir ulam, not the side of that hallway on the ulam. All of those locations are not acceptable, right? You all have to do it on the side of the mizbeach. Ve'ezeh zekir hatachton. O eno ela kir ha'elyon. So which wall, right? We have a mizbeach. We've got an upper section. We've got a lower section below the chutta sikra and above the chutta sikra. So where are we applying it? So v'dinu. There should be a logic. Uma behema she'ola solamata. When it comes to animal korbanos, we said that the korban ola is done below the red line. Chatasa lamala. It's the sin offering that comes from an animal is sprinkled above the red line. So oaf, when it comes to a bird, she'ola so lemala, where the blood of the ola is done above the red line, as we will see later on. Eino din shechata so lemala. For sure, the bird offering, that's a chata, should also be above the red line, right? It's clear that even when it's below the red line for an animal, even when it's below the red line for a bird, it's above the red line. So we should for sure do the chatas above the red line. Talmud Lomar, therefore the pasuk says. The whole pasuk is v'hizah midam hachatas al kir mizbeach. You should sprinkle from the blood of the chatas on the wall of the mizbeach. V'hanishar b'adam yimatzel yisod mizbeach. The rest of the blood you shall squeeze into the base of the mizbeach, which means it is kir shayarin shalo mismatzim. We're sprinkling it against the wall because the two are next to each other. We're sprinkling the blood against the wall that you are then going to squeeze the rest of the blood, and the rest of the blood goes to the base. Therefore, the sprinkling has to be done below the red line. It's got to be the below the red line. So by the bird. So we were reversing. Okay, we're reversing. Ne'evad me'iloi v'hadar ne'evad mitatoi. Well, how come? Maybe what you should do is sprinkle the blood above and then squeeze the blood below. So the Rava says, Miksiv yamtze. It doesn't say the rest of the blood shall be placed, shall be squeezed below. It says yimatze shemi mela mashma. It will run to the bottom, which means that based on the location where you're already applying the blood will then be applied and then run down to the base of the mizbeach. It's passive tense. Therefore, that's a tense, but it's a passive form of the verb, which means it shall be squeezed, And so therefore, since you are squeezing it in the same location, you have to squeeze it in the same location where you're already doing the sprinkling, so that when it is squeezed, it will go all the way down to the base. And that means that the sprinkling has to be done in a place where when you squeeze it, it will go down to the base, which is the lower section of the Mizbeach. Okay. Amar Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia says, Amar Rav, Ketad Molkin Chatas Ha'of. How do you do Malika? So I told her, I couldn't remember. We did it already. Here's how Malika is done. Oches Gapav Bishtei Atzba'os. You're going to hold the wings of the bird in your two fingers. Okay? And the two fingers that we're going to use are going to be these two fingers. Between these two fingers, you hold the wings. And then Shtei Raglayim Bishtei Atzba'os. Then you're going to hold two legs of the bird in between these two fingers. Umoteach tzavara al rochev gudlo. And then you're going to hold the bird between your thumb and your finger here. Okay? And then you're going to do Malika. So the body of the bird is in the palm of the hand. The wings are here, the feet are here. And here's a nice little picture of what that looks like, right? Opinion number one, right? We're holding the bird just like so. Now, machlokas rishonim about whether the bird is being held in the left hand or the right hand here. The Malika has to be done with the right hand, that's for sure. The question is, am I holding the bird's wings here and the feet here, wrapping the head around like this, and holding with the bottom, and then figuring out how to kill the bird with my thumb that I'm holding it, right? Or am I holding it in this hand, holding it still, and then I'm doing it like this? It's machlokas rishonim on that point, on this opinion. But the next opinion, for sure, is that it's being held in the right hand. But Masni Satana, we learn in a brisa. Sipra milabar, so that you're supposed to hold the bird not on the inside of the hand, on the outside. So therefore, what you do is, oches gapav bishtei etzbaos, you're going to hold the wings between these two fingers this time. Okay, fingers are going to be holding it. Ushnei raglaim bishtei etzbaos, then you're going to hold the feet between these two fingers, and then, right, then motech tzavaro al rochav shtei etzbaosav, the bird's head is going to go around these two fingers, right, and you're going to hold it there, and then umolik you do malika. That's going to look like this, right, around the back of the hand. In the video that I'm going to share tonight, it's going to be the one that says you hold it in the left hand and you do malika in the right hand. It's much easier to do that way. So the Gemara comments is, Zuhi, he says that this is Zu Avoda Kasha Shebamigdash. This is the most difficult avoda in the Beis HaMikdash. Very hard to do. You got to hold a live bird with one hand and do malika in the same hand. That's hard, right? Zuhi Vetulo, that's the one that's difficult. We have had many times where we've discussed difficult services, right? Where we discussed, for example, on Yom Kippur, where you take a scoop of ketores, and you're somehow supposed to put this ketores into a utensil, and then you're supposed to empty the utensil, which you're holding, without putting the utensil down, empty the spices out, back into your hand, without putting the utensil down, and it has to hold two handfuls, so you have no hands to be able to do this, so that's pretty difficult. Kida, which was also bowing down in such a way that your hands, right, you have to bow all the way down. Somebody got very injured trying to demonstrate that in the Gemara. We'll discuss that when we get there. But there are lots of difficult avodas in the Beis HaMikdash. So why all of a sudden what about this one? How about kmitza? Kmitza is very difficult. The Gemara says, kmitza, right? You're going to do this. You have your kmitza, you have your flour in here. And then this is very hard to do. You have to move your finger, your pinky, and your thumb on the outside and wipe away the extras. This is not easy. What I'm doing right here, I have worked very hard to be able to do this. This is not simple to be able to do this, right? Because you're going to lose everything that's in your fingers here. If you're, right, you got to be able to move this finger independently, right? That's not so simple, okay? So that's hard, right? And chafina, this emptying I haven't tried that one, right? I need to get a good scoop right? So that one, chafina, says that's pretty hard. Ella em avoda kasha, me avodas kasha. We're saying the malika is one of the really hard ones. Okay, so that's a good place to stop by the Mishnah. And good to see everybody. We'll